Oh my goodness. Welcome to Jumpstart Your Joy. Today, I have my friend and the woman behind 100% Guilt-Free Self-Care, Tami Hackbarth. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm super duper glad to be here.
Yes, me too. I'm glad you're here because we always have a lot of fun and it has been such a joy to get to know you. I think we did meet through podcasting, if I recall.
I think we did.
Yay.
And it's funny because I'm like, we met on the internet some way, but I'm pretty sure it was through podcasting. So if anybody's thinking, I don't know, what should I do? Yes, start a podcast. You get to meet cool people that you get to have really interesting conversations with and a reason to talk to people. And as an introvert, I need that.
Yes.
So
me too. And it is funny because as I've rebooted, I was gone for like a year and a half. And then as I've rebooted, most of these guests that people are hearing are literally friends that I've made through the podcast. And I'm like, I want to talk to them again. Well, Tami and I are really going to hit all the bases here, I think. The questions that I know we're going to be talking about is really like just for context. So Kamala Harris has now been the nominee of the Democratic Party. Biden has dropped out. We are context. So you just know where we've been recently. So I feel like a great question to start out with here, because Tami, you are all about 100% guilt-free self-care. How do we approach the basics of self-care right now?
The first thing I would say is we need to drop the perfectionism that self-care has to be all or nothing. The second thing we have to do is drop the idea that self-care is somehow getting your nails done or your hair or manis and petties or anything that you can buy at Target. Friends, self-care is an inside job. And it is, I'm in my mid-50s Paula and I go way back in our Gen X lives here. As you get older, real basic human maintenance self-care is so boring and so unsexy. And it is so non-negotiable as you get older. So what can we do right now? You can put your shoes on, any shoes. I don't care what kind of shoes you have on. Put your shoes on, grab your keys and a water bottle, and walk out the door. We call it going out for 15. Here's something that some of you may need to know. That means you're taking a 30-minute walk, because if you go out for 15, you got to come back. So guess what? You've just done your 30 minutes of recommended movement for the day. And do that on most days of the week. We call it completing the stress cycle. We call it hot mom walk. We call it my goddamn mental health walk. You can call it whatever you want, but it's not optional, friends. It's not optional. If you have a hard time getting out, take your dog, take your kid, take your spouse, take your neighbor. Just do it. The second thing that we can do is get your face out of your screen around 8 p.m. Just have a card cutoff point. Put it down, put it in a drawer, put it in a sleeping bag. Get your face out of your phone, stop engaging, get the blue light out of your eyeballs, and go to bed. I'm not tired, girl. Yeah, you are. You really are. You've just been so tired for so long, it feels like, oh my God, this is totally normal. It's not. Yep. Unless you're regularly sleeping 7 to 9 hours every single night, you're tired. The third thing you can do to practice guilt-free self-care, body basics, is eat things that you would find in the rainbow. They can be frozen, they can be fresh, they can be canned. It does not matter. It turns out we need to eat produce in order to continue to move well. And as we get older, I don't know, some people, if you're listening in your 20s, you're like, I haven't had a salad in 2 years. Terrific. I had 2 salads yesterday because I'm 54, and now that's what my body requires. As my 13-year-old is often reminding me, Mama, you cannot eat like a teenager anymore. Sad, but true. And then finally, I am going to challenge everyone that's listening right now to meditate for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Maybe at some point you'll go up to 7. Ooh. Maybe you'll even get up to 10. Paula and I have talked about this because we're like, how little meditation do I have to do in order for it to, quote, do something? And the research is 10 minutes. 10
Yeah.
minutes. And you don't need any special equipment. You don't need a cushion. You don't even have to sit down. And if you do all of those things, what it'll take an hour a day or
Stuff you're
less,
already doing, like
stuff you're
eating.
already doing, just like, I don't know, make it intentional. But mostly, don't feel bad about taking care of your basic human needs. While you're at it, add in a little self compassion practice, which is, oh, I'm not going to speak poorly of myself. I'm not going to speak poorly of other people because they too are human having a hard time during this time.
Yeah.
Like we're all in this together and we're all struggling, which means we're going to give each other a break, right? And we're going to pay
Mhm.
attention to when those urges to judge each other and judge ourselves harshly for our mistakes. And we're going to say, oh, wait, we're not doing that anymore. I'm going to come at it with this feeling of, man, we're all doing the best we can. This is really hard. Being a human being is inherently hard. We're not doing it wrong. This is not a bug, it is a feature, right? And once we're like, oh, it's not a personal problem? No, 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 no. It's not a you problem or a me, it's an everybody problem. We're all struggling. But
Yeah.
what makes us struggle more is when we don't take care of our basic needs.
And I will add one on the meditation thing. If you haven't tried labyrinth walks, because you're like, I can't sit still. I just think about the laundry and the everything else. If I sit still and try and close my eyes and get still within, try a labyrinth walk. Go to labyrinthlocator.com. Give it a go. Um,
Absolutely. You know where I have some of my best meditations? It's in the
Walking.
shower.
Oh, with a shower. Yeah.
The shower, on a walk, in I am a swimmer, so
Mhm.
swimming laps in the pool, just count
Yes.
your strokes,
Yes.
right? If you're walking,
That's a
count
really
your
good point.
steps. And the
Yes.
whole point isn't to create this like peaceful meadow of nothing.
No.
No, no, no. That's not meditation. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to notice when we get quiet and we don't have our phone in our face and we're not constantly in movement or in conversation or trying to do 75 things at once. When we only do the one thing at a time, what does your brain tell you? Because my brain is a lying bitch named Blanche who's like, you're a terrible person. You don't do anything in this world. Why are you even here? You messed up in seventh grade. Okay, Blanche, you need to calm down. Girl, you need to get it together, right?
And I
And
love you, Blanche.
and I love you. Like,
But
who
that's
hurt?
we're not
Babe,
gonna
who
talk
hurt
about
you?
all that.
But
Yeah.
babe, who hurt you? Come on, it sounds like you need a hug, right? Because our thoughts are not necessarily truth filled,
Bingo.
right? So we don't have to hug them. We can be like, whoa, I see what you're doing there.
Yes. You're creating a little bit of chaos,
Yeah, you're
and I
creating,
don't
yeah, exactly.
and
You're creating chaos in a place that we don't need more of that.
right, and a time when it is simply not welcome.
Right.
But I love you, self.
Yeah. I'm
Or
here to,
and I love you, self.
and I'm here to take care of you.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, and in the first 10 minutes here, we could just be done. No, I'm kidding. One of the other things Tammy and I have known each other long enough that, like I said, I would consider you my friend. And I know as I was writing out the questions that I sent over, which I do with every guest, but I was like, I think these are actually questions I have for my friend Tammy instead of Tami Hackbarth guest. So this I think is going to go a little bit more off the cuff or whatever, loose and wild, if you will, because I think we need to get into some of the political pieces and that's why I gave context up front was what in the world's going on right now? And maybe, Tammy, you have a background more in activism and organizing. Maybe if you want to explain that so people can understand where you're coming from. And then maybe we talk about some of what's going on because it's become a mess, honestly. What is your background?
My background is I did not fall off the turnip truck in 2016. My very first political act was writing an op ed to my school newspaper in 1987. And it was published because a boy had written something about fathers' rights. And I was offended by him demanding what I thought was wanting to control women's bodies. I've been a big advocate for bodily autonomy since the 80s. And so that was and that op-ed got picked up by our local newspaper. And I was interviewed, my picture's in the paper about being an
Neat.
abortion activist in 1987. So we'll start there. I have a degree in political science from UC Davis. I minored in African American studies. I worked in the state capitol in the Assembly Speaker's office. I done a bunch of political work for Planned Parenthood, done a congressional campaign in California, a Senate campaign in Oregon. I have been everything from a grassroots organizer to a fundraiser to a lobbyist. I come at it with a long, long history of being in the work.
Right.
And it was my career for more than a decade.
Yeah.
Then I went public service, became an elementary school teacher, and people are like, oh my God, how do those connect? People, I am in service of making the world a better place for women.
Right.
Just put a period at the end of that sentence. They're like, but you're a coach now. I know. It's so crazy. I am never going to love and light you. I am never going to be like, oh, positive vibes only. I'm going to say, let's get into the reality of how we create the world that we want to live in. The first thing we do is we take care of ourselves so that we can be helpful and not harmful to organizers who have been doing the work for decades.
Right.
So my call is get your shit together, complete your stress cycle, get out of looking and sounding like an angry toddler who doesn't get their way when somebody gives you some information.
Yeah.
I'm talking to white women right now. The weaponized tears that this is hard. I'm going to quit. I'm overwhelmed. We don't need to do that. We need to pace ourselves. We need to sustain ourselves because guess what, pals? This isn't just for November. This is civic participation for life.
Exactly.
Well, it's like we elect the right people and then we hold those people accountable to what we want.
Right. Yes. And currently we are at that precipice of electing the right person.
But you know
if
what,
we,
Paula? Yes. And guess what?
yeah.
It's not just one person.
Oh,
That's a
correct.
fallacy.
Yeah.
That is a fallacy. The president can do nothing if they do not have the House of Representatives and also the Senate.
Right.
If you want a dream team, there it is. And that's just federal. But guess what? Every single race, from school board to judge to sheriff to anything in your neighborhood, is important.
Right.
Because the closer the office is to your house, the closer the policy is to your house.
Bingo. Exactly. Well, and
the people that are running for those offices are our neighbors, are the people we see on the soccer field. They're the people we see at the barbecue or the PTO meeting.
Precisely.
Right?
And they have direct influence. You probably saw me go, yes, over the school board, because that is precisely where my own level of participation has been focused over the last year. We had 3 people on a board. 2 were very conservative, right-leaning. This is in the very liberal Bay Area, folks. And that
Were
is
they
where
Moms for Liberty people?
one of them was. And
which was not a grassroots organization. That was an AstroTurf organization. Grassroots comes from the people, right. And AstroTurf is top-down organizing.
Right, because they're connected to the Heritage Foundation, which is connected to Project 2025. Like there is, if you go, folks, if you haven't researched this is a great place to start. And I had to stop several times because when you realize how far the rabbit hole goes on this thing, it is amazing. And it has been in action since around the Reagan administration, if not before, but it is that long standing. They have been working at this for decades.
I am so glad somebody other than me is saying that. I love that. Also, if you want to know what state we're in, People Magazine, you know where you find out about all your celebrity gossip and who wore a dress better? People Magazine has a little story on Project 2025. So imagine the people that are going to be getting their hair cut, waiting for their color to process, or at the dentist office, looking at a back issue of looking at a back issue of People Magazine. They're going to be like, have you guys seen this? What's happening here? What?
Yes.
It's like we've taken the veil off,
Right.
or the
And
hood, if you
thank
will.
goodness it's happening, because even like 6 months ago when it was clear that there was this string through all of this at the school board level, I could see where it was coming from, and I could tell, frankly, I think we were a testing ground. Does this play in California? Can it work here in a primarily Democrat, leaning group? And it did, and I'm gonna celebrate right now and say those 2 people were recalled. They are gone. They are that kind of mentality at a school board is not welcome. But I think the real challenge, and we can use me as a case study if you want, was there was a lot of energy at these meetings, and I think this is what you're talking about with the white woman thing that happens is we feel challenged. A lot of people then got really angry and really loud, and I don't think that anger and loudness helps. And it's really just a form of what I would probably call centering. Like now you're making it about yourself, white lady. And if you can see Tammy, she's pointing at me. Now you're making it about yourself. And that is not okay. This is
It's not
not a
helpful. It's
no.
actually harmful. Stop
Right.
doing that. That's why I want to
Yes.
call everyone around. It's like, hey, gals, let's get around the campfire. We're all going to promise to complete our stress cycle. I really advise daily vigorous exercise so that you can get anger is such an appropriate response to
Right.
people trying to take away your rights. Absolutely. I am not saying get rid of your anger. I'm saying be effective when your mouth is open.
Thank you.
I am saying don't get so caught up in your feelings that you take away from the mission and everybody has to attend to your feelings and use their mental energy and bandwidth to handhold you like a child who has missed their nap.
Yes.
And if this hurts your feelings right now, I am 100% talking to you. We have to get it together so that we can make change.
Right.
So if you grew up thinking, I have to put everyone ahead of myself because that's what makes me a good person, I'm here to let you know you can unsubscribe from that challenge. You matter because you're taking in air. I want you to be the best version of yourself. I am the first person to cheer you on when you're like, you know what? I matter too.
Yeah.
No one else can take care of you. So you have to do it. And when you don't take care of yourself, you become a problem for everyone else.
Yes.
So we have to unsubscribe to self-care. It's selfish, it's silly, it's frivolous. No, it's not. It is the fuel for your sustained energy and activism in any
Right.
form, right?
And we're all in activism right now. Like it has happened. You are either reacting to something that's happening. If you're just having these conversations even at a dinner party or you're at a school board meeting or you're just reacting on your couch, you're activated. You
Well,
have
exactly.
and
It's like
then
your nervous
please.
system is like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
Right.
And have you ever seen somebody fight their shadow or an opponent that really isn't there? They expend all
Yes.
this energy. It's the equivalent of your older brother holding your forehead after he's taken something from you and you're trying to get it
Yes.
back and you are swinging and you are like grabbing and you're putting out all your little sister energy, but your arms are too short and you tire yourself out and they just laugh at you.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and you're not managing your own energy. That's what's happening.
Right. I think
So
a
we
better
just
way to deal with that for me is I actually have conversations with myself in the car of like I walk through the entire dialogue of what I'd say, what they'd say, and I just do it until I get to my destination. Then I let it quiet. But like there's a perfect place to fight with yourself.
I actually took a training. So I have
Yeah.
two resources I want to share right now.
Please. Yeah.
One is the Words to Win By podcast. It is hosted by Anat Shankar Osorio, another Bay Area person. She is a communications researcher and campaign advisor that has come up with a framework for effectively having conversations with people who may be persuadable. And the people who may be persuadable are the people sitting next to you who are on your side at the the city council meeting or the school board meeting who are losing their shit, and you're like, babe, we got to huddle. We're going to go on a walk, and then we're going to remember 3 things. We're going to remember when we yell at people, they don't listen. When we yell at people, they get defensive. When we yell at people, they shut down. So we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to say, hey, what do you value? So I'm going to, you know what? Let's do this right now. Paula, what do you value? What are
What
some
do
of your
I?
values?
Well, I value joy. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Even if I don't always embody it. I value connection. The next one that pops up is thoughtfulness or combined with presence. So maybe present thoughtfulness.
Okay. And now I'm going to ask you, ready for this?
Hmm.
What are you afraid of in the current world?
Freed of or afraid of?
Afraid of.
Afraid of. Ooh, Tami Hackbarth, you've got me. I'm afraid that some of the stability that allows us to have joy are at threat or being threatened. You can tell I'm working in this real time.
Right. I
And
know.
so and
Right.
so it means that I do think and I'll be specific. If they take away social security, that's a how are we all going to survive? I mean, that's money we've put away. It's money that's ours. It's earmarked for us. It actually literally came out of
Our
our
paychecks.
paychecks.
Exactly.
So how do you just take that? I mean, and then what happens to an entire generation of older folks, including us as we get older? Then we're struggling and the stability is gone.
Okay. And so then we're going to look at who's the villain in the situation. Who's the villain? Who's the they? Who is they? You're afraid of them. Who's them?
Well, the person that's talking about it currently is Donald Trump. So, I mean, he's the
And
one
Project
here and
2025,
Project 2025. So he and that has
otherwise known as the Republicans.
the Republicans,
Yeah.
yes, have
I mean,
introduced the idea.
we don't have to dance around it, because
Yeah,
if anybody's wondering, well, how do you know? I encourage you to go on the internet and look up Republican platform Social Security and see what it says.
right.
Then I want you to say Democrat platform Social Security, right?
Yeah,
So instead of thinking, okay, I value these things and these people are in the way, now I want you to take yourself into anything is possible. If you were going to write a vision for the United States, what would your vision include? What do you want? Don't limit yourself about, oh, that's not possible. No, no, no. We're dreaming big, people.
right.
If you were writing the future of this country, what do you want, Paula?
I would want it to be a place where equality means that there is the same kind of stability for all people, regardless of their background, regardless if they were born here, regardless what their religious leanings are, but that the stability is there and that the care is there for all people here. And I mean, I'm going to be specific again, living people. And that the living people in fact have more rights than an embryo. Like let's just go there too because that is a possibility for a life. But that we have to protect the living and those that are here with us now.
And guess what? That's possible when
It
we
sure
have,
is.
that's possible when we have the presidency and both houses of Congress. We can pass federal law which will protect the right to decide if and when you have a child. We can codify Roe v. Wade. Harris has always said that's like one of her top priorities. But we have to deliver a blue House and a blue Senate for that to
Right.
happen. Also, if you want your kids to be able to read books in your town, hello, the school board, the people who give money to your library, those people are important too. So when you look at it in the context of what are my values? So one of my values is freedom in all forms. I want to
Right.
decide for myself when and if I'm a parent. I want to decide what doctor I go to. I want
Yeah.
please stop telling me what to do. I don't like it, right? There's only one party in the way of that. And
Yeah.
we have a chance to make real change if we all show up. And the other thing I want to say is when we have these conversations with people and we get into what people value, a lot of times these conversations end up with like, God, we actually have more in common than we don't.
Yes.
We all want safety. We all want community. We all want to be safe.
Right.
We want to be taken care of. We want our people to be taken care of.
Right.
There's very few people, a lot of whom happen to have an R behind their name and gray hair and a blue suit, that hold the power over the rest of us. We outnumber the people who don't want those things, but we have to show up now in November and beyond.
Right.
But the only way we can do that for the long haul is what?
By
Self
taking
care.
care of
A little bit
ourselves.
every day. It's this politics,
Yeah.
civics is not a sprint. That shit is a marathon. I don't want everyone out there, blowing up their Achilles tendon and ripping their hamstrings out and falling over and barfing on the sidelines. Girl,
Right.
I want you to come in last in the marathon because you were like, I'm just going to do like a 15-minute mile.
But I made it
People
across
who are,
the line.
yeah, people who are walking, yeah, they're walking faster than I'm running. But you know what? I want us all to get to the finish line.
Right. Yeah.
I want us all to get to the finish line and create the future together. And are we
Yeah.
going to agree with every single person? No,
No.
because we value different things. But when we use that values, vision framework, which comes from the creator of the podcast I just told you,
Nice. Yeah.
Words to Win By, this works. Another thing I want everyone to check out, I've been following this lawyer who used to work in politics, who was also, so she's licensed in DC, Virginia. She just moved back to New York, California, like the whole thing. She worked in politics. And what she does is she comes on YouTube twice a day, usually, and she talks about, holy shit, this is what happened. But she can give you the context
Mm.
of the legal analysis, the political fallout. And people are like, how are you so calm? I'm like, well, I don't engage with the news directly. Like, I don't need to hear a bunch of legal jargon I don't understand. I need to go
Right.
to trusted source to go, I'm sorry, what does that legalese mean? And what does it mean to me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And her name is Elizabeth Cronice McLaughlin. Check her out.
Writing it down.
And her show is called Resistance Live, and it is on YouTube.
One
And
that I love, especially for news and stuff, is one of our very own. I'm just kidding, but it's the Newsworthy with Erica Mandy, and she was in news for a really long time in Los Angeles, and then about 7 years ago created her own podcast, which is Fast, Fair, Fun in 10 minutes. And it does kind of nail that. Like, okay, I understand the headlines. If I want to dig in more, I'd probably go to the AP or something because I think I got to stop with CNN or MSNBC. They're
yeah,
very
it's
excitatory.
yeah.
So, but
They're,
Erica
they're they're
Mandy,
they're click hunting is what you're getting at.
precisely. It
Yeah.
is all about the money. Money,
Yes, it is.
money.
It's so, but it is, right?
Yeah.
And this is the thing. The Trump administration made news organizations very, very rich because people were clicking all day long because everyone
Precisely.
was like, it could happen at any time. What's going to happen? I don't know. I have to keep my finger on the pulse.
Yeah. The news cycle
The news
became
cycle was
so
just
short.
right, but it also created this sense of urgency. Sure, that's good up to a point. But if you're not going to do anything to follow up, turn it off.
Right.
Because we're going to try to re-regulate our nervous system by what? Completing the stress cycle.
Which
So
goes
that,
back to the
which goes back to
self-care.
the self-care. Like everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, why do you keep talking about self-care? And I'm like, how do you think I've been doing politics since
Yes.
1987?
Yeah.
That's how.
Right.
And I will say, have I burnt out? Yes. That is why people pay me to come to their companies to talk about burnout because I've been there and I've recovered. And now I help people not get burnt out.
Right. And the key there is understanding that if you're getting to that edge, back it off. Like, it's also okay in this marathon if you are stopping for the drink of water, you're having one of those gel packs. I don't run. I'm 4'10". I don't run, but that you take care of yourself in this marathon because I mean, it's very rare that there's one person that's always the front person every marathon. That doesn't happen.
And there's one book that I would
Yeah.
recommend, because
Okay.
if it's not, if you know, it's called The Persuaders.
Okay.
And have you read that book yet?
No, I haven't. I will. Tammy, I will. I'm gonna footnote everyone. Tammy
Yes.
Hackbarth. She recommends the best books. It's almost like you're a book whisperer because you can do this thing where you're like, you summarize in your head all the stuff someone's talking about. And you're like, seems like out of nowhere. You're like, hey, have you read this? The Coaching Habit was one of your recommendations. I read that. It works, folks. It works with clients. It works with family members. It works with your kid. These questions are brilliant. 7 questions. I can link to it in the show notes. So that was another one that I
Absolutely.
deeply
Right.
appreciated.
But that is also, I feel like it plays really well with how to talk to kids so kids will listen, and listen so kids will talk.
Yes.
I feel like that's like the work version of that book. But The Persuaders
Yeah.
subtitle is At the Front Lines of the Fight for Hearts, Minds, and Democracy by Anand Giridharadas. It is so good because when we're having these conversations with people and we're getting into the values and the villain and the vision, this is not I'm so glad you educated me, and now I shall do what you say.
Oh no.
These are marathon conversations. These are
Yes.
planting seeds. And when we're planting seeds, we're actually planting like carrot seeds. just like just
Most of it
it,
grows.
it grows
You
underground.
can't see it.
You also can't dig it up to see if it's growing. You can't, there's a tending nature of this, right? And
Yeah.
again, I'm going to come back to this marathon over and over. We just need to do a little bit all the time
Right. Yes. Well,
toward
and
the
can
future
I
that we want.
precisely. And can I just reflect? I'm maybe even those that are listening sensed this, but there was something that happened even in our conversation when you brought up the questions, when you brought me through the value villain and vision. The whole temperature of this conversation and where I was at, I don't know if anyone else felt that, but went like back down to okay, but where am I in this? Why am I passionate about something? Where's the common ground? Because I have to think of the villain in a way that isn't like, I mean, because we have to get away from that. Like they're coming for us. We're all gonna whatever the total fear factor is. Like we
Well,
have to get
because we
away
get,
from that.
and the reason I brought up the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn is because I'm going to be honest, in some situations where I feel threatened, I freeze like a jackrabbit. I'm like, you know what? No movement. I'm going to keep my eyeballs still. Maybe they won't kill me if they don't see me, even
Yeah.
though I'm in their direct line of vision. Maybe I'm going to be safe, right?
Yeah.
Totally valid
Yeah.
response to being threatened. Running
Absolutely.
away when you're being threatened, totally valid response.
Right.
Because on the inside, we are cave people. We are our ancestors. We haven't
Yes.
evolved that far, right? And then fawning is a new one, which is like,
Yeah.
oh, if I'm nice enough, they'll spare me. If I'm nice enough, I'll be the exclusion. If
Right.
I'm nice enough, the bully won't bully me. They'll go after somebody else. And then there's the fight response. I just want to say we all demonstrate these in different kinds of threat,
Yeah.
and that one is not better than the other. So if you have been somebody who has been like, this is uncomfortable, I'm outie, girl, same,
Yeah.
same. It's hard.
Absolutely.
And if you are somebody who's like, I shall scream in your face, girl, same. For
Right.
real.
Yeah.
I have in my life absolutely frozen when I'm having these conversations, and I'm like, oh, look at your nervous system getting all up in your cave
Yes.
lady feelings there.
Right.
Right? Like, but the thing is one of the responses isn't better than the other. But do you know what helps calm that shit down? Paula, what is it?
It's self-care, I
That's right. It's
think, Tammy
completing the
Hackbarth.
goddamn stress cycle. It's so
Well,
we
and
it's like
it's
we
even
can get ourselves back into our body and say, is a saber-toothed tiger eating my eyeballs right now? No. Okay, well, I guess I'm good. Is there
right.
a gunman literally pointing a gun at me in this particular moment? No. Okay,
Yeah.
right? We just have to get back into the actual moment of, okay. And even if somebody yells at you, you're likely not going to die right there.
Right. Well, and I think there's also that moment of pause. If you can get there, and this is where the practice comes in, right? Of like, ooh, whatever thing is out there, I'm looking at my hand in the mirror, I mean, or whatever that is. It's
Uh,
scary. I don't know what to do. Oh, like what you even just said. Oh, there's my nervous system. Like I've been activated.
what is
And
she telling
that's
me today? Are we running? Are we fighting? Are we going to drop down and freeze?
yeah.
Are we going to try to make friends with the enemy? Like, what are we doing today? Who's
Yeah.
showing up right now?
Right. Yes. And that's the place where I think a lot of us need, especially if we're in a conversation that has to do with politics right now, it's really important to notice that moment because, even in my limited experience with watching things go down at school boards, you can see the people that come up activated. And all that it does, if you are in fight, is gives them fuel to just jump on it. Like, and that's where you were saying earlier, that's not helpful. The fight is real and to feel it is real, and that's normal. But then how do we move into the place where I can be heard and
Heard,
seen?
where I can be heard, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have we been on the receiving end of somebody screaming something at us,
Oh, yeah.
even for our own safety? Even for, there's a car. My husband is a big person in the car, and I'm like,
I
honey,
know.
I'm going to put you out the car if you keep doing that because you
Yeah.
just activated my entire. I'm like, I feel like a crash is imminent when
Yeah.
you do that. Cover your eyes when I'm driving so
Or
that you
just
don't activate the driver, sir.
right. Or just suppress the
Right?
that sounds
Exactly.
like we're dying, honestly.
Imminently. Like
Yes.
death is like it's happening right now. I'm like, but there's a car like 27 feet away. But he's like, but do you see it? I'm like, yes.
Yeah. I'm
I've been
driving
driving for 40 years, sir. Almost 40. Yes, I do see it.
and I pressed the brake.
Perhaps you should complete the stress cycle before we get in the car, babe.
Yes. Well, and there we go again. And with if you have completed the stress cycle and you kind of know your inner workings well enough, and I think and if I didn't already say it, your birthday episode of the call to action, I'm using marketing speak, but of we all need to start having these conversations about politics. And
Oh,
if
because it's a group project.
it is
What
a
we're
group
doing here is a
project.
group project.
Yes.
Because if I could save democracy by myself, y'all,
It'd be
that
saved.
shit would be
Because you're
saved.
a badass.
Yeah, like y'all would be like, who is Queen Tami? Damn, she gave us some good stuff in the 80s, and we've been living large since then. But
Right.
clearly not in this by myself. So I am trying my hardest to be like, I know it's scary. I know and I know you feel like you don't know enough. God, how many of us have been paralyzed because we're like, I don't know what to do?
Right.
Well, you
And
know
that's a
what?
good starting place.
Right? The good starting place is, well, me and Paula,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a book, and I'm going to give you a training course. I'm going to hook you up with people who can teach you. So another thing I want people to look into is a training that's done through Indivisible, and it's called deep canvassing while social distancing. And deep canvassing is basically what we just did. It's having conversations with people about issues that are important to them.
Awesome.
And it's about asking questions. It's about being curious. It's about finding common ground. It's about building coalitions. It's about saying, like, hey, it sounds like we both have these same values. Let's be real. The Republicans in the way of us making our group project an A+,
Right.
right? We don't have to agree on everything. We have to agree on some things, which is we want a better future for ourselves and our families and our communities. And we can't go it alone. So if
No.
you're like, oh God, okay, maybe I might make some changes, go to these resources, check them out, share them with your friends. even just saying to your friend, hey, do you want to listen to this podcast with me? Like your safest friend, like your
Right.
bestie from seventh grade, where you're like, girl, I think I might try to do this. Will you listen to this podcast with me?
Right.
Right? Because all we're doing is creating these relationships with people so that they can get out of fear, out of perfectionism, out of freaking out, and into action. And by the way, this does not just apply to politics,
No, not at all.
right? This applies to everything that's getting in the way of your joy, of having real conversations with your family about things that are important to you, like getting more time for yourself on a
Right.
regular basis, having your family take ownership of some of the responsibilities in your household so that you aren't so weighed down with the responsibilities of every domestic task in your house.
Right. Yes.
Good communication begets good communication.
It's so true. Yeah. Well, and I just want to say thank you for even putting, I mean, it's rare that another podcaster gets to say to a podcaster, thank you for that episode, but I'm going to say it here and I will link it up because it really changed how I approached what was a very difficult situation for me. And I knew I didn't want to show up activated and I knew that I didn't want to show up angry. And I don't know exactly what it was about your words, but you gave me the permission to be like, no, I'm going to show up. Maybe inherently I knew, like, well, what was my value? I want to show up joyful and with the absolute belief that we don't have to show up angry and fighting to get through this and to get to the other side in a way that looks better for all of us. And I'm not going to buy into the rhetoric that's coming from the Republican conservative side because some of these people are claiming they're not Republican. I don't believe it at all. You are. Whether or not you know it, I'm gonna name it. You are. So
Right.
thank you for putting
Yeah.
that out there because I think
And
it takes
there's
people having that conversation first to make it normal for us to step into those places for ourselves. Sorry, go ahead.
right. If you look at the people who have been doing deep activism, changing the course of history, change the civil rights movement, the women, there is an inherent self-care and joy. And because we cannot go through our lives angry, triggered, activated, and expect to do this for a long time.
Yeah. Thank
Being
you.
in community with other people, there's like, if you go to a campaign office, you'll be like, did they just feed me pizza and bagels and donuts? And then we were laughing and we had a dance break. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you might actually feel by being in community with people trying to change the world is you might feel a deep sense of connected joy. I
One
know
or
I do.
two of my values. Yes.
Exactly. And that's why I'm like, just try it, right?
Yeah.
Just take it on as an experiment. What would happen if I showed up at a postcards for voters writing party? Oh, another place. If you're like, I don't know where that's going to happen, go to mobilize.us, put your zip code in, and they will tell you every place that you can get involved nearby where you live.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, and so we're rounding that corner, or we're past an hour. How this happened, Tami Hackbarth. I need us to like talk every day because this is always so fun, informative, and joyful. Do you want to talk a little bit because you've started an offering to bring change from within? Do you want to talk about that a little bit before we go and how people can find you?
Yes. I am found at TamiHackbarth.com. I am very active on Threads
Okay.
because it feels like old Twitter, like
Hmm.
from 2009. It's like
Yeah.
a cocktail party with smart people. Oh my God. And I'm like, I don't even know these people, but look, I'm butting into their conversation in the best possible way. So find me on Threads. If you're not on Threads, you can always find me on Instagram. I am there frequently. And I'm answering the call to collect my people. And what I'm doing is I am starting a monthly membership. The name is TBD at this point. However, think of it as self-care and civic engagement for the long haul. We're going to get together online in a private group, not on social media, my own place, and we're going to set our goals for both self-care and our activist work, and we are going to cheer each other on, because one of the things that I think people really struggle with is when they are making changes in their life, um, the people that they have been in relationship with, who have been with them since the beginning, are like, woman, what are you doing? Who are you becoming? What the
Yeah.
hell? That isn't who you are. If you want to be someone else, you might have to invite new people in, new people who get it, new
Right.
people who are like, oh my God, me too. I would like to also have those changes. Oh my God, me too. People I've been hanging out with aren't down for that yet. We're not going to necessarily throw away our old relationships. We're not going to be like, I cannot speak to you anymore because I am this new person. No, we're going to be supported in the creation of the new way of being in the world by being with people who are like, oh my God, I'm on this path of making change too, and cheering each other on. So
Yeah.
jump over to my website, TamiHackbarth.com. You can, if you're curious about burnout, I have a free recorded. You can go, oh my God, these broads talk about this book for a long time. Yes, we did. And get on my newsletter list, because my newsletter subscribers find out about things first. And they also are the people who get first dibs at the best prices to get in to work with me.
Sweet. And I have personally worked with Tami, and it is a joy and a delight. And I did deferred maintenance for I think a couple rounds. Really very helpful. And you definitely hold such lovely space for people, and you really meet them where they are in a way that I don't see other folks doing. So thank you. Thank you, Tami.
Well, and thank you for saying that. It's important, because how I show up
Yeah.
publicly on podcasts, I know I sound super confident, perhaps a little bossy. Some people have even said off putting, to which I say, move away. Perhaps I am not for you. But people in my coaching program are like, oh my God, you really were a cheerleader in high school. I really genuinely feel like you are my bestie. You have my best
Yeah.
interest at heart, and you help me accomplish the things I'm setting out to accomplish. I'm like, you're welcome. Oh my God. Because I can be both,
Sure.
right?
Well, and I think it's important to acknowledge that all of us are both. Like, yes, I'm aggressive, abrasive, whatever, some
I believe the word
situations.
is assertive.
I am assertive in some situations, and usually just a very level-headed, joyful lady that, yeah, I just want the best for everybody. But I love that you welcome the whole and the totality of a person. And if they want to show up, you show up with them. So thank you for that. Um, do you want to share? Because I started mixing up my last question. Why I'm so excited about mixing up my last question. But what are 3 ways that you can think of to bring more self care to your life, to the world, or other people's lives? It's
Okay,
big.
it is big. Number one. So, can we all agree that I have a lot of jobs? Yes, we do. I'm also a fair play facilitator, which means
Yes.
in addition to my outward political work, I also help families rebalance the domestic labor at home. And so, if you don't know what fair play is, there's a documentary on Hulu. Go watch it. So, that's number one. Because a lot of people are like, there is no way I could get my family to do more around the house. To
Right.
which I say, I can. Yaha. Two is, I want people to see the movie Inside Out too.
Yes. Loved it. Was crying, was cheering. Like, I do like Disney, so there's that. But this movie was different, and different than the first one in an amazing way.
I have to say, I only found one flaw, and it's at the very end. But I have to
Okay.
say,
Yeah.
I went with my 13-year-old daughter.
I
First day
went with
is
my 13-year-old son.
right for first day of summer. We laughed, we cried, and when just the whole our orange haired friend came in, and the through story of her, we were hugging, and she's like, oh my God, that's for real for everyone. I was like, yes, I don't know if it's for everyone, but it's definitely for the two people hugging in these seats.
Yes.
Right. And the third thing is, I want people to start having Friend Friday. So way back in 2023, I realized even this introvert had enough of being alone.
Mhm.
And I was like, whew, girl, you have to connect with other people in the real life.
Yeah.
So I made a promise to myself that every single Friday of that year, I would connect with a friend in some way.
Mm.
Some it would be like people I'd been meaning to have coffee with. So I'd take 30 minutes, go have coffee with a new person. Sometimes it would be connecting with a friend over Zoom, face to face, to watch a show together, to have the
Mm.
commentary. Sometimes it would be, oh my God, going out to lunch with people. Sometimes it would be a text with a promise to do something else. They call that pebbling, by the way, when you frequently check in with your people,
Oh, yeah. I like
right?
that.
And so I felt so much better about the state of the world when I was connecting with people in real life. I could see their face
Yeah.
or hear their voice every week. And people are like, oh my God, how did you do that? Okay, so let me give you the nitty gritty. On the last day of the month, you sit down and you go through all your contacts. You're like, who have I not spoken to that I'm like, oh my God, I need to contact with this person. You send them a message and you say, hey, I'm doing this thing called Friend Fridays. Do you have any Friday in the next month that you could get together for the next like 15 minutes to 3 hours?
Yeah.
Right. And then you fill in those dates
Love it.
and then you actually do them. And then the following month, you do the same thing. And you guys, it felt so good. I started doing it in 2024.
I love it.
And I think I'm going to do it forever because the thing that's going to keep us the healthiest is when we are connected to other people.
Precisely. And it brings so much more joy because then you're having these conversations and it's not just reaching out to people when you need or are really down or whatever. Like it's a natural thing and you know the community that you have and you
Right.
have joyful connectedness.
Exactly. And maybe you're not having deep conversations. Maybe you're talking about the cute boys from seventh grade. Maybe you're talking about New Kids on the Block. Maybe you're talking about your favorite TV show.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the conversation, I don't think has to be deep or serious. Just the connectedness is deep and
Right.
serious.
I love that very much. Thank you. I'm really
You're
glad I'm
welcome.
asking people a different question because when it's your area of speciality, as a former guest once pronounced it, then it becomes like you're so much more of an angle on it and how it relates to joy is clear. Like yeah, I think the Friend Friday thing, like that is joyful. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming back and joining me. This has been a true delight, Tami.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. I look forward to having more good conversations moving forward.
Thank you.